Hello and welcome back to Even More News, the first and only news podcast. My name is Katie Stoll.
It is. Thumbs up to you. Thank you so much for continuing to be here with me every week in this show that we do every week. I'm Cody. Hello.
Hello. Boy, folks, we've got a first-time guest with us this week, podcaster and co-host of the Bulwark's FYPod. It is Cameron Kasky.
Fuck is up, gang?
Ooh, love the energy of that.
What the F is G'ing on?
Can I just say right off the bat, two things. Number one, I'm so excited because this is one of the only podcasts I ever listen to. The people at my network, Bulwark, always kind of give me trouble for the fact that I don't listen to any shows from there because I don't have the attention span for podcasts. I don't like that. It's not for me, but I love this. The second thing is, I'm sorry about the way I look right now. I just got off of an MSNBC thing and they just cake you in makeup. So I feel like I look like I'm like waxy and made out of plastic, but...
Oh no, you look great.
Slay.
Excellent. We can put a filter over if you want.
Jonathan is also here.
That's true.
Hi.
There he is.
I
That's
love
the guy.
this pointing. We got it.
I feel empowered now.
I also love that you use slay, Cameron, in the interest of transparency. You're not our first Gen Z host, but you are a Gen Z host. I did look up Gen Z terms before you joined us today, so...
Well, I hated slay. When people started using it. Like when I would talk to other men I might have been interested in and they said slay, I was just like, okay, no. This is not okay. But then I just entered these social circles. Bet is great. I learned that one from a drug dealer when I was 15 back in Parkland, Florida. Sure. But slay was really, really offensive to me. And then I guess I was in a group of friends that were using it kind of half ironically, and it sort of just merged into my language. And I kind of just use it to aggravate my millennial co-host, Tim.
That's how it happens. You say it ironically, and then it just becomes a part of you.
All right, Cameron, we've got questions for you. But first, we've got some holidays to celebrate. And this is...
Are they good? Are they anything?
Saturday, April 26th is National Dueling Dinosaurs Day, commemorating the 2006 discovery in Montana of Tyrannosaur and Triceratops fossils. It's believed that the two animals both died in the late Cretaceous.
It almost brings to mind my former classmate and colleague David Hogg is currently running an effort to spend $20 million to unseat elderly gerontocracy Democrats. So in many ways, he's kind of dueling dinosaurs.
Cameron, we do have some questions for you. As you've already referenced, you have a new podcast. It's only a few months old. You co-host it with Tim Miller, exploring the politics of Gen Z. And we're just curious, what's it like working with one of us lame elder millennial types?
I love Tim. So many of my friends are elder millennials, just because I was doing political stuff and running a nonprofit when I was 17 years old. So my closest friend is turning 40 tomorrow, and is in much better physical shape than I am. But that's just a gay culture thing. He makes me, like, if you just looked at our bodies, didn't see anything else, you'd be like, oh, that's the 20-something who's plucky and sprightly. But Tim is such a great co-host, mostly because so many people are trepidatious to bully and pick on a young school shooting survivor who's, like the better part of a decade younger and who's still finding out the truths about life and about young adulthood. And I think that there's this sort of shield that guys like me and David get because of our status as Parkland survivors, where people are less quick to criticize us or call us out. And I think that's changed with James Carville and his fucking foghorn leghorn voice beefing with David, being like, oh, that kid is a brat. But still, I think that there's a degree to which we are held less responsible and accountable for our actions because people are like, well, I don't want to bully the Parkland kid. But Tim bullies the shit out of me. And he's not afraid to tell me that I'm a little bit of a dumb asshole. And what started as sort of a Gen Z exploration podcast turned into just us kind of like bickering like an old couple. This week I was talking about Ross Perot and I said, oh, sorry to the Gen Zers who don't know who that is. And Tim goes, yeah, Ross Perot's dead. And I'm like, really? So he tells our producer, Jamie, which is the name of Joe Rogan's producer, he says, hey, Jamie, will you look that up? And then a few minutes later, he asks Jamie, and Jamie goes, he died in 2019. And I was like, yeah. And then I said, ooh, I don't want to celebrate this guy dying. Like, I wasn't cheering at Mr. Ross
No, you were
Perot's
cheering that you were
personal
right.
victory.
I was cheering that I was right.
Exactly.
So that's kind of what this show is like, look, we look at things from a Gen Z perspective. I can't say that I'm an extremely Gen Z person because I, read books and I don't know TikTok, and there's just a lot of stuff my generation does that leaves me very befuddled. But the good news is I'm friends with a lot of people who are aggressively Gen Z. So I get to sort of hear from my sample groups of people from this community, or people who, only get their news on TikTok, or I just kind of have a finger on a bunch of different types of pulse. So I put all that information together to give Tim sort of an understanding of how we all feel about stuff, because my brain doesn't work very quickly. Like, my synapses do not fire very fast, which is why I can't debate people. I lose every time. And I can't remember stuff. My working memory is really bad because of adolescent drug use, obviously. And in Parkland, Florida, there's not a lot to do when you're a teenager except for drugs and survive a school shooting. So I did a lot of drugs, and that makes my brain not work so good. But what I can talk about is less the information and the facts of the day and how people feel. So that's sort of the spin that Tim and I have, and that's sort of what we get into on the show. Is I can't tell you the raw data the way that other talking heads could, but I can tell you how people generally feel about stuff.
I relate to that real hard.
Man.
It might be my own drug use as a teen as well. I don't know.
I didn't do drugs, and I can really repeat hard data very well.
Cameron, this is an important question, actually. Would you be able to tell your co-host, Tim, I'm very nice, and he should unblock me on Twitter?
You know what's so funny is he just did a segment today on his show that Cory Booker was on. And Cory Booker live on, I don't know if it was live actually, Cory Booker on video for Tim's podcast unblocked Tim, who Cory had blocked like a decade ago.
Incredible.
So I will send the message around.
Just
I absolutely
I'm
will.
really nice.
Send
I'm
him
really
this
nice.
clip.
I'm really nice. That's what a wonderful moment of not television, but good moment to capture.
It was so funny. Oh my God. It was just like it. And I think stuff like that, and even the conversation we're having right now, really speaks to why a lot of politicians and official type people are expanding out to independent media. There's obviously the whole, why didn't Kamala Harris go on Joe Rogan debate, which I have opinions on. I don't think I'm really qualified to comment on it. But I think
Everybody's qualified to comment. I think any opinion's valid, but
we'll get to know each other better, and that might change. But what I'll say is...
I know, as I was saying that, I was like, I don't know if that's actually true. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, just because I find myself, like, I find myself giving certain opinions on things, and then within 48 hours, I'm like, who the fuck said that? And then it was me. Like, this was happening so much after the election, is I was seeing someone's tweet that was like, stop talking about the economy. This was misogynoir, which is why Harris lost. And I was like, exactly. And then I saw another tweet that was like, don't let them make it about identity politics. The Harris campaign failed to lay out a correct progressive vision. And I was like, exactly. And then I would see tweets that were like, both of those are true. And I would say, correct. And then I'd see tweets that say neither of those are true. And I'd be like, hell yeah. So I don't like to comment on stuff.
You are like the perfect podcaster.
All of that is true. It's like, yeah, that this point is true. This point is true. I think anybody that's saying you're a dumbass because you think this thing is true is the dumbass. Because I think that there's lots of stuff, and not every opinion is valid, but there's nuance to it. There are different angles that you can come at from it. So having an open mind in that you are receiving different information and trying to get to the root of what happened is only a good thing, in my opinion. But there was a lot of that after the election, a lot of anger behind all those statements. Yeah, I relate. So we know that you talk a lot about Gen Z and politics and the news. That's what your show is about. But we want to talk to you about that as well, especially this headline that's been circulating lately about how Gen Z is pivoting to the right. And, when you drill down into it, it's not as black and white as that. But yes, a recent Yale poll found that on just a generic GOP versus Democrat ballot, 22 to 29-year-olds voters are Dem +6, but 18 to 20-year-old voters are R +12.
I think what's going on with young men, well, first of all, it's really worth taking a look at the fact that divide between elder Gen Z, it's crazy to say the word elder, and baby Gen Z is COVID. It was us getting locked in our houses, and it's the kids who are skewing so aggressively to the right are the ones who were graduating high school on video. And it's really complicated because you're like, okay, well, Trump was the president. He's the one who botched it. Why aren't these kids who are so traumatized by this thing blaming this guy for what was going on? But it's a little bit more, I don't want to say simple, but I'm going to be a little bit more reductive.
Sure.
To these young people, it wasn't Donald Trump that failed them. It was the establishment that failed them. And the Democrats have been running on the establishment, and, the baby Gen Zs weren't necessarily old enough to vote in 2020. So the Democrats were running on a restoration of order. But these young people grew up, their parents lost their jobs and houses in 2008. Schools have been getting shot up. COVID happens and they're stuck behind their computers. We aren't socializing with each other. We aren't meeting people from different communities. Then we're stuck on social media where the big tech overlords that everybody was calling so woke are deliberately feeding us far-right content. So I think it is the Democrats' failure, obviously, to market to young people, obviously to communicate to young white men. It's important to note that while young men are getting more fascist than ever, Kamala Harris won the vote from young black men in 50 states. But I think, because Trump is coming in and saying, I'm going to fuck shit up, and because our attention spans are programmed to make us look at stuff for 5 seconds, we say, okay, we've got Trump who's going to change the system, and the system hasn't been working for us. And then we've got Kamala Harris, who's trying to straddle the line between saying, I'm progressive and we're going to do stuff the new way, and also saying, by the way, the past 4 years have actually been great. And it was this weird attempt to sort of have her cake and eat it too, where it was like, I'm brat and progressive and the new young thing, and we're going to change shit up, but also there's nothing we actually need to change because the past 4 years have been wonderful. And I don't know what I would have done if I was her, except for tell Joe Biden that he's too old in 2019. But I don't know what I would have done if I was her, because it's like, what is she going to do? Fucking throw him under the bus and be like, okay, now that I have the nomination, the guy I was just working with for 4 years is actually a senile old bat, and everything he's doing is wrong. So I don't think I can out-strategize Kamala Harris.
The problem, this last election started in 2020 when, everyone else was forced out of the race to go behind Joe Biden, and then picked Kamala Harris, who was tanking in favorability, who didn't have an authentic voice at that time and hasn't since. And, we've rehashed Kamala plenty, but yeah, she wasn't appealing to anything at all. She was towing some line and not putting herself out as authentic in any capacity. I don't think that she would have done well on Joe Rogan, but in general, the energy that you're starting to see from like a Pete Buttigieg right now, who is going out there and having conversations with different hosts of shows that reach different demographics. I'm not sure how that'll play out, but I do think that we need people. He's at least younger and able to handle himself in those mediums. And so in general, we need more people that are able to keep up with the reality of modern media and be authentic.
I had characterized Pete as this kind of hoity-toity, pedantic douche who couldn't reach normal people. And then my friends, who are basically like directly in my sample of how normal people feel, they think that Trump is funny, and they think that Obama is the coolest president ever because he plays basketball and smokes cigarettes. Like, they're such the average American's take. They get their news from TikTok. They think women should be able to get abortions, but then RFK convinces them that he's got some interesting ideas for health that are worth exploring. Right. They sent me a video of Mayor Pete talking about something on some sort of podcast, and they were like, this guy makes a lot of great points. And I'm like, oh my God, I had the wrong idea about Pete. He's actually a really good messenger.
I think that the other two elections, when we've seen Pete, I think that he's been more moderate, but I don't know what's happening with him right now. My hope for him is that he is leaning more into the moment.
Yeah, he's definitely improved his communication skills and sort of honed this, like, here's the message, here's what I'm going to say. I always find it interesting because he's one of the few that actually goes on like a Fox type show and is like, look, here's what they're doing actually. And he can like list off all the things that are actually going on. And I think the real test for somebody like Pete is what do you say and do next, like later. It's very easy when like Trump's the president and when there's this huge backlash to lay out the problems. But when you're, running for, let's say, president, is he in the plenty bold camp? Or is he what's he actually going to be saying at that point? Because he can definitely triangulate.
It brings to mind, we're not going back. It's like, okay, where are we going?
Like, that's a good start. We're not going back. It's a great start. Very powerful message, especially considering all the things that are happening now, because we're all going back. But having that vision to say, here's what you want to do. Also, Harris couldn't call Biden old in 2019 because she was too busy calling him racist to his face on stage in front of everybody.
Yeah. That's a good point. I want to circle back just slightly to this previous question because I think I wanted to say that I agree with you. The COVID of it all, the timing of things, the radicalization, being stuck in your homes. But I think that there is also something interesting because this skewing is primarily men, young men. Gen Z women are not leaving the left in the same capacity that, Gen Z men are. And I do wonder if along with the COVID, there is also some sort of a reaction to the toxic backlash to Me Too, to the manosphere, appealing to disenfranchised young men who are, and I'll also add that your whole lives have been tumultuous. A lot of our lives, I think that millennials have had a very tumultuous life in a different capacity, but your entire innocence was wrapped up in politics, a very tumultuous period of time. And then there's the existential threat of climate change. There's so much being shoved down young people's throats from a very young age. And I don't really know how to combat that. I don't know how to combat the manosphere influence, the toxicity that's, seeping into everything. Because it's certainly being woke or virtue signaling in some doesn't seem to be helping anything, even though if you drill back down and I have a conversation about it with somebody, they'd be like, okay, well, I get your point. But in general, culturally, I don't know what my question is. I guess I'm just saying my thoughts and seeing what your guys' thoughts are.
Yeah, I think the problem with woke isn't what's being said, it's how it's being said. There's so many things that I explain to my friends who think that woke has gone too far. And when I explain it, they're like, well, that makes sense. And then, but the shit that they're seeing on Twitter is like, it isolates them. It is interesting to see what's happening with young men. Obviously, the radicalization is tied to a lot of things. And you bringing up Me Too is something that I have been exploring recently because I've been really curious about the impact Me Too had on us. Now, I'm about to throw myself a party for how woke and incredible I am. And for those of you who think that this is self-serving, yes, correct. I deserve it. Me Too, like, fundamentally shaped the way that I interact with women, specifically women. I don't think it had any impact on the way that I interact with men. Men are terrible. But with women, I have this consciousness that it's almost imprinted into my brain that you have to be hyper aware of whether or not you're making somebody feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, great, because I'm glad I know.
Right.
So when I'm with someone, I am way quicker to overcorrect than undercorrect, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Like, one of the things I say to my friends is, of my female friends, some women will tell me, he asked if he could kiss me. That's so ick. And some women will tell me, he asked if he could kiss me. That's so gallant. I'm wooed. And I'm like,
right.
I say to my friends, you should probably ask first, because if she wants to kiss you, you asking is not going to change the answer. And if it does change the answer, she does not need to kiss you. She needs to go to therapy. So things like asking if you're going to kiss somebody and stuff like that, those are, but when I was 15, 16 years old, those things were really coming to light. And I was obviously getting laid by that back then because I was the man. And I was a drama kid. And if you're a straight passing, if you're a straight passing dude in drama, you are stuck in a pressure cooker with these really, really hot girls who are almost exclusively surrounded by gay guys. So you just bump up 2 points on the scale and you walk in, you're like, hey, I also like girls. It's game over, especially if you're getting leads, which, not to be that guy, but I happen to do quite often. Thanks for asking.
You just were that guy.
The
You just did
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School theater department only had so many boys, so I got some roles that I, in the right cast probably would not have been qualified for. But I think that a lot of young men grew up with this understanding that. Did you say John Proctor?
Yeah, from The Crucible.
Yeah, I know.
I can
so
see you doing
Cody
that.
played the whatever. Who did you play?
In
Did
what?
you play Jean Valjean?
No, I was Thénardier.
Oh, Thénardier. Anyway, we get it. We understand the pull of
Thénardier?
being one of them.
So for those of you who don't know, Thénardier is that fucking dog. He is so wild. He's a scammer. He's a huckster. He's not unlike Mr. Donald J. Trump, dare I say, the orange guy.
I know. He's got real Trump
He does.
vibes.
He does.
Yeah, and he's in this musical called Les Miserables, where it's in France, and everybody has a British accent except for Thénardier, who very often either has a French or Cockney accent. And he was played by extremely passionate human rights advocate Sacha Baron Cohen in the movie adaptation.
Oh, never saw that one.
But just to what, yeah, it has its moments. To what we were talking about, I think that Me Too made a lot of young men feel like, Jonathan, to your point, like there was a bit of a witch hunt going on, not unlike in The Crucible with John Proctor, who, if we had done The Crucible, I would have been John Proctor, and I would have been in at least 7.5 to, I'd say, 8.7 out of 10 in terms of quality. But a lot of young men, we were fed this narrative so young that it's like, you have to apologize for being a man. You have to be sorry, especially if you're a white man. And I heard that, and because of the way that I was raised, I was like, okay, sorry, everyone. But a lot of people see that, and they're like, wah, woe is me. Oh my God, it's so hard. And Me Too definitely was very, very formative in the way that a lot of young men saw interactions with women as something that we, obviously we're taught that we're entitled to that, but that's something that's in every generation. We saw it as something where there was this hyper-vigilant sort of woke, dark God watching us, and we would, and if we end up alone in a room with a woman, who knows, maybe she could just make something up and lie. And it really had an effect on us.
Yeah, I believe that. And I think it's interesting, and I'm not surprised by this answer. I think it's interesting and important to address. Not that I think Me Too is wrong or any of these conversations are wrong. I think it's interesting to understand the way social media twists things and the way it feels online. Because in my opinion, the conversation shouldn't, there are certainly terrible men and there are things that I have frustrations with, sure. But it's supposed to be a conversation that helps us all. It's supposed to be a conversation that improves our relationships and how we communicate with people of the opposite sex and have an understanding of women. It shouldn't, in my opinion, it didn't need to be what you're describing. But is what happened to a degree anyway for people. It's how it was metabolized for people, the perception of it.
It's the same thing, I think, as woke, where it's like it's not about the thing, it's about the way we talk about it, right? So, and I think that one of the groups of people who really has gotten off scot-free with the radicalization of Gen Z men is our fucking parents. Because parents, at the end of the day, the way that your child is raised, you have such an impact on that, And if I had a conversation similar to, what do I do about interacting with young women when Me Too is happening and, I might get witch hunted, my dad would have been like, okay, you fucking baby, cry about it, like you'll be fine. And some parents just failed to deliver messages to their young white sons that were like, yep, raise this country, you're white, you're benefiting from it, and there's going to be people who are going to talk to you about how something needs to be done about that. And my parents taught me that that's the type of conversation that should be, that should be happening. And also, even if we are getting shit for being white men, by the end of the conversation where we're getting shit, we still win because we're in the country that is designed to only work for us. But parents failed. Parents really fucking failed.
So what you're saying is it's young boomers and old Gen Xers who gave birth to all of it. It's their fault?
If somebody bullies your kid in second grade, most parents won't say, I need to have a word with that kid. They want to talk to the parents.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of these polls will show that where like Gen X and Gen Z are very aligned these days, and it seems like boomers have like sort of at least with like the sort of Republican Trump aspect of it, where boomers are like, actually we hate this guy, and they've come around. And a lot of other things I see with the Gen Z polling is it's very erratic. And it seems there's this like, and this is true, I think, you're just young people growing up, like you change your mind, you learn about the world, like you're learning, and so the sort of back and forth is expected, but it seems particularly pronounced where like, oh, during this 3-month period, Gen Z is like, actually Trump sucks and he's bad, and then for 3 months it'll be like, oh, we love him now, he's amazing, then he's elected 2 months later, like, oh wait, he kind of sucks now. And I'm wondering, you know, is like vibe wise, is there this like particular fickleness, or just like, you know, there's misinformation, obviously, lack of attention span, these sort of things that social media has applied to this generation growing up that makes that oscillation a lot more likely and a lot more frequent?
Yeah, I think it's just social media. Like,
right?
That's
Yeah.
why, you know, we're hot, then we're cold, we're yes, then we're no, we're in, then we're out, we're up, then we're down. Is that Selena Gomez?
That's good. You should write that down.
Yeah,
Whatever. Yeah.
HOTTOGO.
Yeah, Selena Gomez, Katie, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Based.
Does it feel like then because it used to, we didn't call them vibe shifts, but the vibe shifts, there was longer period of time between them, and now they're like pretty close together.
Look, we go where the algorithm points us, and like I said before, the techno overlord guys were characterized as so liberal because at a time when it was financially expedient for them to use pronouns, they did it. But they go where the money is, and they realize that that billionaire oligarchs are able to get more money from the American consumer when we are isolated and when we are not sharing community with each other. So they've been doing everything they can to keep us away from each other because they are ultimately right wing. And the more people come together, the more they experience other people's lives, and the more they find community, the less likely they are to vote red.
Boy, howdy. If you're like me, and you probably find the world to be a lot right now. To quote Benjamin Franklin, the world is a vampire. But what if an app could help? App is short for appliance of the phone, and Headspace is an appliance of the phone that helps 100 million people with guided meditations, mindfulness practices, breathing, and calming exercises, and so on. Howdy boy, let me tell you, I'm really good at meditation. I'm better than you at it, and I'll prove it one day. And Headspace has allowed me to hone my skills with these quick on-the-go programs that lets me meditate like nobody's business. It is certainly not your business. Stay out of my meditation business. Stay out of it. If you're a Zen noob or a elite meditation expert, they got something for everyone, and includes an endless meditation library and thousands of hours of mindfulness exercises. Feel good and mean it when you say it. For a limited time, get Headspace free for 60 days. Go to headspace.com/somemorenews. That's HEAD SPACE. It's a guitar solo here, some drums. .com/ some more news. I didn't get it exactly right. To unlock all of Headspace free for 60 days. That's headspace.com/some more news. Oh, there's no jingle. That's why I didn't do it right.
Listen up, freshmen. I want to talk to you about your flesh. Katie wants your flesh to be high quality, hydrated, vibrant flesh. And then I'm gonna want your home address. But first, you should check out Peak's Radiant Skin Duo. I did. According to Peak, it's backed by like doctors and science and stuff. There's the Sun Goddess Matcha, which is designed to give you a no jitters, sustained energy with something called L-theanine. And then there's the BT Fountain Electrolytes that will hydrate your flesh and lock in moisture so you stay wet and spongy. It's important for me that your flesh is spongy, folks. That's a key part of this. Also, since Peak quadruple screens for toxins, I can rest assured that your skin contains no heavy metals or pesticides or mold. Just good, valuable flesh. So, if you are ready to stop feeling like a raisin and glow up from the inside out, now's the time. Get 20% off plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker with my exclusive link, peaklife.com/more news. That's PIQUE life.com/more news. Don't wait! Your body and skin will thank you, and as a result, so will I. There's nothing weird about it. I want you to have good skin. I want that for all of us. Jonathan, what's going on in the news? Didn't love that, but
I loved it.
I loved it.
Thanks.
I loved it. And what's going on is Donald Trump and the Donald Trump administration wants you
Me?
to have more babies.
Oh, I don't think so. I haven't had any.
Yeah. So as we know, Elon Musk is very influential, and a lot of these people are pro-natalists, which is a thing we know now and are talking about. And so they're looking at ways to encourage people to have more children. And some of the ideas are a $5,000 baby bonus given to every American mother after delivery. Okay.
Just before we get to some of the other ideas, I guess my question is, Jonathan, as somebody who, with one of those children things, that obviously would have helped. Everybody could use money, and obviously new parents, child is expensive. Would that pay for the hospital? Like, how much of that would even be, would you even, like, take your kid home and be like, we still have some of this $5,000?
If you are a potential mom or a potential dad who's on the fence, I don't think $5,000 is going to tip you over into having a baby, because as we know, it's a lot more expensive than that and takes a lot more time than $5,000 will take
At the
you.
very beginning,
But
right?
sure,
Like,
is it retroactive? Can I have it now? Like, how far back are we going?
I did it, yeah.
What are the other ideas here?
Let's see. Government funding for programs that educate women on their menstrual cycle. That'll feel great, right? To have Russ Vogt chiming in on your menstrual cycle.
I don't have much to say about this by the end of this little stanza because I did not look into it because it's fucking insane. But there's some internet phenomenon about women like getting into this kind of culty right-wing obsession with their menstrual cycle and how it affects their work and how it it's sort of like the manosphere for periods and stuff. And it's not really about menstrual health or women's health care. It's more about like somehow managing to make following your period part of misogyny. And for that, you almost got to hand it to them because that takes creativity.
When I read that, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I don't have a problem with women understanding
Education is important.
And education is important. This is with the specific purpose of getting girls pregnant, which I take issue with. But in general, I think it's important for women to understand their bodies, and everything you're talking about is true. It is being, absorbed by some weird right-wing Venn diagram accounts, wrapped up also with the trad wife, all of that shit that's going on. It is true that women should understand their cycles. They should understand, for example, towards the end of your cycle, you don't work out the same way. You should do yoga. You don't have to trust your own body, but in general, like when you're more tired, it's literally that. Like, listen, and knowing that when you ovulate, that's when you get pregnant. So you should know when you're ovulating. But we don't get ahead of that information. That's also good information to have if you don't want to get pregnant.
Right. This is all information that's just good to know so you live a healthy life. And take care of yourself and, like you're saying, like exercise the right way at the right time. That's not what this is about. That's not what they're doing here. Also, like, I don't know if the Trump administration should be trusted with this. Like, I don't want the blood coming out of her whatever guy to do this menstrual boot camp program or whatever.
I feel like he has a real chance to be educated on the menstrual cycle, maybe for the first time in his life.
I feel like he doesn't have a good chance to be educated about anything. Jonathan,
in
I'm
terms
sorry
of
to
this
say.
pro-natalist stuff, I guess the only thing I could say with confidence is that, I'm almost halfway to 25, and looking back on this life that I've lived, I think I'm ready to be a father. So if anybody wants to help me repopulate the earth and save humanity, you can find me at Cameron Kasky.
Oh, bold.
When you say you're
Billions
almost
of
halfway
dollars.
to 25, do you mean you're almost 24 and a half or almost 12 and a half?
Well, it is so nice of you to ask. I meant the former.
Okay.
It's the fucking
But thank
MSNBC
you.
makeup.
I can't help myself. The podcasts don't need this from me. I want to read this Matt Walsh, bad Matt Walsh, not good Matt Walsh tweet.
Is it smart? Is it good?
Well, no. He's talking about what the policy should be in terms of getting
I don't want
people
to
to
know
have
what
more
he thinks
children.
The policy should be.
He writes, policies should drastically favor families with children. Married couples with kids under 18 should not have to pay any income tax. Just for starters, raise taxes on single moms and couples with no kids to make up the difference. So he wants to incentivize single mothers to just pick anyone out there to get married to get significant tax relief.
The people that need the help the most.
Look, I'm sorry, but all these incentives aren't like, it's just, there's so much going on with these people. Because if in their world, they're talking about white people, right? Because isn't their whole worldview that like mothers are taking advantage of the government and like having all these babies just so they can get government assistance?
Right. They
Isn't
don't
that-
say it. They clearly want white people to have more babies,
Yeah,
and they
I mean,
will find
Musk
ways
has
to
said it out.
disincentivize the things
Well,
they don't
otherwise
want.
we wouldn't be ejecting children that were born here from parents that are immigrants.
They want DEI for parents. Also, have they talked about like bring back like child tax credit or like helping with daycare, things like that, things that like actually like cost a lot of money throughout a child's life?
I mean, the hypocrisy is just so clear that it almost feels redundant to talk about it. Like, these are the people who were talking about the sanctity of the American household and the American family, and then they were like, yeah, but gay people shouldn't be able to get adoptions. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you fucking losers. I swear to God. I always talk about how important it is to meet people where they're at and to not talk down to folks and stuff like that. And then stuff like this happens, and I'm just like, you're fucking dumb, and they're playing you for an asshole.
Frustrating, isn't it?
And you look like a fucking idiot, and you should just shut the fuck up. Like, I know when I am unqualified to talk about something, and if I'm going to talk about it, I preface it with that. I'm not really qualified to talk about natalism or childbearing. I have never bore a child of my very own, but it's just some of these people sound like such assholes when they're espousing these right-wing talking points, and of course the right wants them talking as much as possible.
Also, just to note, and I think we mentioned this before, one of the driving factors, from my understanding, one of the driving factors for the lowering birth rate in America is teen pregnancy, and the lowering of specifically teen pregnancy is what is causing a lot of this. And that seems good.
But Matt Walsh is specifically against that, too, as he has brought up.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're a Republican, you're simultaneously balancing the two kind of contradictory points of she's a whore and it's her fault and it's because she was dressed that way, and it's also great that she's having a baby as a teenager and we're not going to help her. So it's, you just let these people trip over themselves. And, I have a friend who is pretty right-wing almost across the board. And he's pro-abortion. And I asked him why specifically that. And I was kind of hoping he would say women should have control of their bodies. But his response for his pro-abortionism was some people just shouldn't fucking have kids.
That's what I thought he was going to say.
I was like, you know what? I have two options. I could either push him or let him be pro-abortion. So I was just like, I mean,
I thought you meant actually push him.
I see people like Matt Walsh, and I'm like, yeah, some people shouldn't have kids,
right?
He shouldn't have been had, and he shouldn't have. So I'll let my pro-abortion Republican friend think that.
Before we move on to some of the phone stuff, I do want to point out some boring things, but they are boring things that are happening that will greatly impact people over the next several decades, potentially. even if we get out of this okay and we're able to put some stuff back together. So Marco Rubio is restructuring the State Department. He wants to eliminate 132 offices and 700 jobs. The remnants of USAID are going to be folded into the State Department, and it's unclear what work will be continued. FEMA still exists because Trump can't get rid of it on his own, but he is denying federal funds to places that have experienced natural disasters because he wants to shift the burden to state. Even he rejected Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' request for an emergency declaration after they experienced a series of tornadoes. She is asking him to reconsider.
None of it makes sense. I'm sorry, I know we're going through this quickly, but this doesn't make sense. This is hurting your base here with that one, but also, I know we've talked about this in the past. I just need to comment that this creates a void internationally when you take away USAID around the world. There is a benefit to soft power. There is a benefit to it. Outside of it just being the right thing to do.
Outside of just helping people. Yeah.
Anyway,
and also not to
on,
be
we're doing this
snarky with it, but millions of kids are going to die because of
That's
it.
what I mean. Outside of the fact that there is just literally the right thing to do. We have programs, we are helping people, and it does benefit the United States if you want to look at it from that fucking angle. But yes, we're going through this quickly.
Also, disaster relief seems good. Whatever.
The Health and Human Services Department, the FDA is being gutted. We're going to have a 19% decrease in its budget. The FDA is ending milk quality tests because who wants that? He's also
We're making our country healthy again, though.
God, it is. Go on, Jonathan.
He's dismantling the Administration for Community Living, which oversees Meals on Wheels and other programs that help seniors and people with disabilities stay at home. And of course, the NIH is creating an autism registry. They are collecting private medical records from both federal and commercial databases for the purposes of studying autism. That seems bad.
Yeah, I want to pause real quick. That is bad. That's pretty fucked up. I know that they're saying like, well, it's just to like determine like the causes. It's for research. It's an autism registry. That is fucked up. That should be alarming to people, especially when RFK's up there talking about, eliminating these causes or like framing autism generally as this horrific thing that we need to eradicate from the world. And if, for example, something is like genetic, how do you get rid of that? How do you eliminate something like that? Well, you want to stop those people from having kids and so on. Like there's all this stuff that can emanate from what he's been talking about over the past few weeks and, a lot of his career. And, we'll see what continues, but that is a messed up thing.
And here's a really interesting part of it, because there was a clip this week where he stood up there and he said, I don't remember hearing about ADHD or Tourette's syndrome or narcolepsy or autism when I was a kid. Thus, they didn't exist, and they must have been created by some sort of exposure afterwards. And we all know what RFK thinks the exposure is, but if he's wrong, it doesn't help that the EPA is canceling tens of millions of dollars worth of grants for scientists who study the hazards faced by children in rural America who may be exposed to toxic chemicals. So if you are worried about exposure to toxins in the environment that might impact your health, he must be pretty pissed that that's happening and might want to bring it up.
Jonathan,
right?
I think you're avoiding the real topic here, which is woke.
Woke.
I mean, this shit is all woke, like guilty. It's woke to look at the milk and to see if the chemicos are hurting the kids.
The people who are checking the water pipes to make sure that they're not filling your child with asbestos and anthrax. Those people use pronouns. So you have to keep that in mind.
So you cannot trust them.
Pronouns.
I and you and we
emoji.
Never use pronouns. Also, just a quick note, this is sort of tangential, but this idea, it's so funny, obviously him saying like, well, I never heard of Tourette's when I was growing up. I think it was discovered in like the 1800s, discovered, like the first case was documented. And all these things definitely existed when he was a kid.
Of course it did.
I love this because there's this funny right-wing thing specifically that is all like every right-wing grievance, all these sort of problems everybody claims to have. Usually, if you like really drill down, it's, oh, you're not 12 anymore and you wish you were. There's, oh, life was so much simpler back during the 90s or the 80s or whatever decade you were a child in, is how they view the world as like a brighter time. It's like, well, no, you were 12 and you didn't know about the world, and you just didn't live, and so you think it's carefree. You had no responsibilities. And then RFK's
also,
out here being like, I didn't know about this when I was a kid. Yeah, you were a kid. You didn't know about it.
We weren't diagnosing people then, too. There's an uptick in people and research and understanding of these things, and we were able to diagnose it.
Yeah. I just think it's funny whenever a right-wing guy goes up there and is like, well, when I was a kid, yeah, you were a kid. Well, you didn't know anything.
We all have different experiences when we're a kid. Also, in particular, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a way different experience pre-1968 than after 1968. Like, notably, you can understand why he might have a nostalgia for his childhood and think things were messed up after that. But, like, please don't take it out on all the children.
You know, the adult human body is a lot like a drunken octopus. They're both soft, they have some limbs, and are just aching for some fish oil. I lust for that fish oil every day. I've been banned from every aquarium in town, even this one. They have pictures of me posted up at the marina. I'm like the Charlie Manson of the ocean realm. But luckily, there's now AG1 omega-3, which is sustainably sourced from wild-caught small fish. God, I want that fish oil right now! Because we need that omega-3 to make our brains and hearts good, don't you know? And AG1 omega-3 comes with a natural hit of lemon, so you don't get any fishy aftertaste. If you're into that, I mean, personally, I'll suck that oil right from the fish, right from their oil holes! But hey, at least I can take my omega-3 with a tall glass of AG1. A sensible sip of a delicious drink. If you haven't tried AG1, I will chug it at the end. If you haven't tried AG1 yet, they're bundling it with their omega-3s for free, so it couldn't be a better time to start. It's something I've actually been able to stay consistent with, and that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. So subscribe today to get a 1-month supply of AG omega-3 with your first AG1 order. You'll also get their welcome kit with everything you need to get started on your AG1 journey. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/more news to claim this special offer. That's drinkag1.com/more news. Here it comes. And there it went. Goodbye.
Hey, Tex. I've been angering a lot of baby elephants lately. It's just a thing I like to do on the weekends until I get bored with it. But the thing about elephants is that they always remember your face. And that is why I use Simply Safe to monitor my home. Their Active Guard outdoor protection lets me see if any suspicious large gray strangers are hanging around on my porch. It also lets me watch the birds and the squirrels. No enemies there. Yet. What makes their system unlike the others is that they are both easy to use and affordable. No long-term contracts or cancellation fees, and their plans start at just $1 a day. They even have a 60-day satisfaction guarantee because, you know, crime in America is down right now. And that's good. But I don't know, maybe there's a reason you might need extra security right now, be that for elephant revenge or whatever, fill in the blank. And right now, our audience can get 50% off their new Simply Safe system with professional monitoring and their first month free at simplysafe.com/more news. That's simplysafe.com/more news. There's no safe like Simply Safe.com/more news.
All right, so here's what you've all been waiting for. White House briefing. Carolyn Leavitt, press secretary. First question goes to Tim Pool.
Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Did you not practice this, Tim? God.
How is this a question?
It's
this isn't
awesome.
an actual
it's
question.
The best fucking question.
This is a setup to rant about the media.
It's so good. He's saying, why are your enemies bad? And like, why do you hate him? Could you like expound on like why your perceived enemies are bad and then compliment me?
Here's my opinion that I know you share. Here's the conclusion of that opinion. Do you have any comment? It's like, dude, I have a theory that the only reason he has not taken the beanie off is because the word incel is physically imprinted onto his forehead.
Can't show you.
It's possible.
He got pranked one day and now he just can't.
He just surgically added the beanie to his head.
I need to, yeah. So this is, and we'll talk about a little bit about this probably with the next clip too. This is so funny to me, obviously for so many reasons, and we could talk about like why Very Fine People was not a hoax, and why maybe if you live in Maryland for 14 years, referring to you as a Maryland man with a family is reasonable to do. But I love this because, and this sort of falls into sort of what we were talking about Gen Z and their sort of fickleness and sort of like oscillating back and forth and your vibe checks. The right wing is so only, I mean, aside from like the cruelty and like their terrible policies, of which they have very few actual policies, but it's all based on aesthetics. That's all they care about. And I love this clip because it's Tim Pool in his little costume, right? He's wearing his costume of like, I'm in the streets. I'm like a modern, like, the
Vice
modern
News
Hunter.
costume.
I'm like Hunter S. Thompson, but like now, and I got my Google Glass, and like I dress like shit wherever I go, but his question is, why are you awesome? Why are you so good? Like, it's a state media question packaged in the aesthetics of like an anti-establishment rebel journalist, because all they have are aesthetics, and it's so funny that he's just doing it.
I have to no comment this because I just got off of MSNBC dressed like this.
You're nailing it. You're fine.
Because I'm just
You're
sick of
in your
these
early
fucking-
20s. That's okay.
He was at the White House.
You're not Tim
He's at the
Pool.
White House.
But
and he didn't dress up for the White House.
I was looking like this, and then I was like, why does this look familiar to me? And if you're all familiar with Jason Todd from Batman, I realized that this was
That's what the vibe was.
actually sort of a Jason
Cameron,
Todd cosplay.
Even your Jason Todd cosplay was much more presentable than what Tim Pool showed up as at the White
exactly.
House.
But I also think like when you're in your 20s, you can be like, right, I'm representing a younger generation. I'm going to dress a little more casually for my media appearance. Whereas Tim Pool is like almost my age. And I think there's a little bit less grace to...
No, to be honest with you guys, yeah, that's a costume because I don't dress like that. I wear athleisure pretty much every day. I dress like a pregnant woman. I have one really soft black
he
aloe
wants that
hoodie.
$5,000 bonus.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I wear like Lululemon joggers that I get for my birthday, and I just look kind of like shit. So I send my friends pictures of me in the Jason Todd costume. I'm like, does this look like it's Gen Z?
Yeah.
Whereas
Am I dressed up accordingly? Yeah.
Tim Pool is dressed like he. It's not just the outfit; it's also the way he's delivering this. He must be on some sort of like really harsh upper, right?
I think
don't
that's just
know.
his brain.
We're going to be woke and not speculate on that here.
Yeah.
We will
Well-
wokely not speculate on
No,
that.
hey, I'm prescribed Adderall, and whether or not RFK makes it illegal, like I take that before I do anything in the public, so I can do something resembling focusing. I just think Tim might have too much.
I think maybe Tim should have prepared his question. And maybe he should have thought about it and practiced it a couple of times. But great question. You know, it's so funny. Like literally, like the night that was posted, a friend of mine just texted, "Jesus, Tim Pool, Jesus."
Yeah,
Like,
way to
it's
hold
just-
bullshit to power or
It's
whatever
so
the press is
embarrassing.
supposed to do.
But maybe his second question will be really good. We'll see. Yeah, because speaking of vibes and how people seem only to operate on vibes with their political decisions, here's this clip we can watch.
Yeah, this is a comedian and podcaster Andrew Schultz on what turned him conservative, I think. What made him vote Trump, basically.
The sides switched so much. You know, when I was younger, like Democrats were cool. They were getting their dick sucked in the office. They were like, right? They were like, they were like supportive of like hip hop music. They said, do whatever you want. Like, we don't want to be in your bedroom. They were cool with gay people. Like, it was cool to be a Democrat. Now, conservatives got 3 baby mamas. The president got 3 baby mamas. He's getting pussy left and right. Right? He's cool. He's the one saying, say whatever the fuck you want. So now conservatives have become Democrats. So I don't think I've changed. I just like the dudes that get pussy and say whatever they want. So it's you want me to be a Democrat again? Get some pussy. Tell me to say whatever I want. I'm there.
So this is, I mean, this is a terrible joke.
Joke.
I don't think he's making a
Well,
joke.
no,
I don't think he's
I
making
mean,
a joke.
No. But the phrasing of get some pussies, like as if Donald Trump is pulling pussy right now. I hate that word.
I mean, he's having
right.
sex with Laura Loomer,
Left
which is
and
really
right.
cool, right? It's
really cool. But I think if you, it is a repulsive clip. If you pull back, I mean, he's saying it's not cool to be a Democrat anymore, and I think that is something to unpack as to the why of it. I don't think it's
not
about
cool
getting
to be any political
girls.
party. Here's the thing.
It's not.
It's not cool. Like, you have these guys who are like, you know, like Benny Johnson's out there talking about like, look at the aura of RFK. He's so aura. This is based. Like, none of this is cool. It's not cool to like be obsessed and like support politicians. Some people do it's fine, but it's not like
I
cool.
know. Just the whole idea that these are the purveyors of the idea that it's punk rock to support Donald Trump now, that this is the new cool thing. It's not cool, but that is the essence of this bullshit that we're seeing.
Yeah, and again, and to my point earlier, it's just about aesthetics, apparently. Like, what do you mean you only care if you get pussy and say whatever you want? I thought, didn't Kamala Harris get like attacked repeatedly for allegedly like sleeping her way to the top and like fucking her way
Okay.
to her
She's
job?
a woman,
Isn't
Cody.
that
That's
cool?
sus.
Is that not
Donald
cool?
Trump is base.
Also, he cited Bill Clinton, who I'm pretty sure on other podcasts, Andrew Schultz has talked about what a weird pedophile rapist Bill Clinton is. So it's just this weird like tension of like, yeah, it was so cool when
Sure.
you did this, but aren't you like one of the like big like we got to see the Epstein list? Yeah, Clinton's on that. He's a rapist and pedophile.
Yeah.
So it's there's this tension of like pretending to care and know about stuff and like go after these aesthetics when they're also contradictory to what you've said elsewhere, and it's just empty, meaningless loser shit. And then you have Pete Buttigieg on your podcast like 3 days later, and all he does is say like, yeah, we want this, we want this, we want this, so we want to do this. We don't think the Republicans should be doing this. And like it shows like, oh my god, wow, we're turning into libs in real time. You could have looked that up in a second. It's just like this, like you aren't engaged in this at all. It's only aesthetics. It's only for like the clips and the popularity, it seems, because if you don't know anything now in like April 2025, then you don't actually care about any of this stuff.
Yeah, I have to do something that is either yes-anding you or pushing back, depending on what mood you're in, which is, yeah, it's definitely not cool to support Donald Trump and his, crypto techno-feudalist buddies, and there's nothing cool about that, and the bootleggers definitely think they're being punk rock. But I do think it is important to highlight how spectacularly people who share the types of values that I try to espouse have failed at seeming cool.
Yes,
I
agree with you,
identify
Cameron.
as one of the cooler people on in my generation on my side of the aisle, and I spend 2 hours a day on the Game of Thrones subreddit. And I am a theater kid who reads fantasy novels and is obsessed with Frasier, the sitcom from the 1990s.
Oh, we're
so
familiar.
If I'm one of your cooler guys, if I'm what you've got in terms of people who look like they have a fucking social life, you're fucked. Like, it is there are so few people trying to make it seem like believing that our society should be taking steps forward towards equity for women and minorities and marginalized people as a whole. Like, nobody's trying to make that seem cool. So we can say like, yeah, that is the punk rock thing. That is the cool thing. It is anti-establishment to be against Donald Trump. It's like, okay, well, it is so clear that what we lost more than anything was the culture war. There has been a massive cultural shift to the right, and that's why we're flailing so hard. Obviously, everything's a mess politically in the Democratic Party. I don't want to diminish those absolute truths, but we've also spectacularly lost a culture war, and that means that we need to fight it, which is why I currently work at the same place as Bill Kristol.
Exactly.
Hey,
No, I
'cause
completely agree with you. And I don't think that any of us are disagreeing with watching that. And it's similar to post-election saying like, yes, this and this. You're right. And Cody, you're right. There's nothing cool about Donald Trump or his tech oligarchs or any of these people. And it is being framed as punk rock. But at the end of the day, yeah, we have lost this culture war, at least for this moment in time.
Because also,
because I also think they're going to spectacularly flame out,
Oh,
burn
yeah.
out, and like,
once they get control of the culture, it's going to be terrible, and it's already like unappealing.
it's part of the whiplash now
it's
that we have.
they're
It's
all
not
it's all
just political.
gross. Right, and I think some of it just sort of like people need to see what was actually being said, because like you can say like, oh, they're like the Democrats, they're like establishment, all this kind of stuff, but like what are they actually saying? Do you want to see what that looks like? And we're seeing now what it looks like. And yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's like watching that clip, I'm like, this is like loser stuff. Like, do you even
Totally.
care? Do you even believe this, what you're saying? Because also he's like, oh, Democrats used to be cool with gay people. Are Republicans? What are you talking about? Like, aside from like, it's weird to just go off vibes and this sort of false sense of like aesthetic coolness, but also all the actual points you're making are wrong. On like a factual level, it's like a stupid viewpoint also, which is why I think it's harder to like be that in this culture, because you have to be honest, right? Like if you want to be honest, you need to like say these things.
You know, at least when us three that are normally on this show were growing up, before your time, Cameron,
When we were watching Frasier.
when we were watching Frasier
Tuesday nights at
in
9.
real time.
That's right.
Must-see TV.
And you
That's
couldn't
right.
you couldn't watch it anytime. You had to watch it when it was on.
You're just going to describe how.
The right was moralizing. It always felt like they were like, you are bad if you aren't following our values, our religious thing. And they still have that. But it felt like the right was moralizing and that everybody was reacting to that. So there was like, we fuck them, fuck that. Maybe that's the essence of the coolness of the Democrats. And then for all the stuff we've discussed throughout this episode, and obviously
Also,
that's
Andrew
switched to a
Schultz-
degree.
Andrew, I don't know if you're paying attention, but you actually can't say anything you want. There are actually certain things you can't say, or you'll get deported or disappeared these days. So maybe they're actually not the party of saying whatever you want.
I mean, it's like dudes like Andrew Schultz. It's so hard for me to understand how anybody thinks that these people are worth listening to, because you've got this guy who looks like he's got to be 40 plus years old, but he's dressed
That's
like,
okay.
He's dressed like a 20-year-old influencer. There was a but there. I wasn't saying there's anything wrong with being 40 years old. I was saying, you know,
He chooses to
we
dress like
suck.
that.
I'm not
Cameron
trying to be
does.
I'm not trying to be the fashion police, right? But it's like you look like a fucking asshole. You are there's a type of person who can have a mustache. I think a beard is more accessible than a mustache, because it's like, okay, this person didn't shave, but a mustache is a choice. A mustache is you're shaving everything except the mustache. And this guy has deemed himself worthy of a mustache, and if you take a look at him, he looks like a fucking tool, and he's wearing a bomber jacket that like a 25-year-old aspiring music manager would be wearing at a club, who's got some allegations about him that he says are totally bullshit, and he's got this
Members only
necklace.
jacket.
He looks like he thinks that he's so awesome. And listen, I had never heard Andrew Schultz's name until like yesterday when I saw a tweet and I saw him giving his like
The Buttigieg one.
the one right before the Buttigieg one where he was saying why he went to the right. And I was just like, listen, I do think the Democrats are losing the war of cool, but this guy is like not this guy looks like such a dweeb. I kind of want to pick him up by the ankle and shake him to get some lunch money.
I guess what I'm also saying is that they're more of that, the dweebness of it. Like this, I think that ultimately comes around to bite them in the ass. I do. We're not there yet, but it's seeing him, and yeah, you're right. He is a tool.
Yeah,
Cuddy,
it's just
go ahead.
like, well, it's just like this is like corny and cringy. But like, if you think those things are cool, like I guess I'm glad that we're not. Like,
Right.
you're talking about like rapists. Donald Trump's a rapist. Bill
It's crazy
Clinton
that he's like,
assaulted that
he's
woman.
he's like, oh, he's getting pussy. It's like, no, he's claiming to be grabbing them by it. It's like,
Yeah,
There's a
he's
difference.
how are you
taking it.
characterizing
He's
this
not
guy
getting
as a
it.
player
Yeah.
when he's very clearly a predator?
Bill Clinton, the rapist, was cool as well.
Yeah. And I don't want to. I'm all for him having Pete Buttigieg on and being like, "Wow, this is the first I've heard about anything. That sounds good." And yeah, I'm good with him listening to these people and maybe being a little more informed. But it's just like, again, it's like this aesthetic. Thank goodness that Pete had a beard. Slightly on the podcast, because he looks like we're like just podcasting
Pete's really
around.
good. Yeah.
He's doing that, and because there was a clip like a week ago of Schultz talking to somebody else, some tech oligarch, and saying like, yeah, if the Republicans announced, no income tax at all for anyone making $150,000 or less, the midterms would blow up. And it's like, yeah, I guess. Are they going to do that? Is there any world where Republicans do that for like people making $150,000 or less? So it's just like this you're not paying enough attention to these like institutions and mechanisms and the people you're being influenced by to be able to talk about it. But I do encourage learning. So I'm glad that Pete told him all the readily available information about the world.
I'm happy that Pete's doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's somebody willing to go into these spaces.
Pete makes
and
the
can have
case
a
better than
conversation.
Kamala would have. I think we
100%.
can easily say.
100%. And I like the beard, Pete. It's working for you.
Sorry, before we end, I want to point out one other thing. We've frequently on this show, I think with good cause, been critical of Democrats who refuse to retire in their 80s. So I want to take a moment to thank Senator Dick Durbin and Representative Jan Schakowsky for being 80 and saying they're not going to run again, to pave the way
Good job.
for new blood.
Set
in the
an
Democratic
example.
You
Party.
can imagine being 80.
Yeah.
still in there.
You guys could probably have a slightly easier idea imagining it than I can.
I think so. But even that's double my
Hey,
life.
now, listen here.
I'm tired.
I am
I'm tired.
Sorry, I just
And
wanted
that's
to. I wanted
double
to get.
my life.
I wanted to let one swing in before we stopped
I appreciate it. No,
here.
you're right. It's fair. I'm 40. I'm 40.
I did need a good cry today. You're right. So we'll go off and do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Retiring dinosaurs on this Dueling Dinosaurs Day.
Yeah.
For what you're doing.
How
For
nice.
not dueling
What a
How
nice way to
us.
For not doing the thing. Yeah.
What a nice way to wrap this up. Cameron, it has been wonderful to have you on the show. I know you've got a lot of appearances coming up, and we appreciate you taking the time. Can you please plug? This is coming out tomorrow, so if there's anything in the near future you want to plug or your show, whatever, tell our listeners where to
sure.
find you.
So we've got a podcast at a network called Bulwark. Who any allegations made about any former presidents on this podcast is not a reflection of the Bulwark's beliefs. I think that's what I'm supposed to say. But we have a show called FYPod, which is supposed to be a play on FYP, the For You page. I hate the title. I think it's terrible. Especially
I
since
just got it.
Especially
Yeah, I
since
just got it too.
when MSNBC and CNN introduce me when I'm doing my talking shit there, they call it the For You pod, which it seems to have gotten lost in translation that it's FYPod, and it's
Yeah,
listed
it's too
listed
clever.
as FYPod. So if anybody happens to be watching mainstream media and wants to subscribe to our podcast and they type in For You pod, they're not going to fucking find it. So if anybody's listening to this, we have FYPod on the Bulwark, and we have a separate channel because only certain types of content that I make are appropriate for Bulwark's largely older subscriber base. We're working on building a young audience. And other than that, I have social media, but I'm posting about like dumb shit and my friends, so I'm not going to plug that.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody.
Thank
at
you,
home
Katie.
Listening
Thank
and
you,
watching.
too.
Oh my gosh, thank you for thanking me. And
There you go.
you're welcome. Hey,
Thank you.
real quick,
What the fuck?
we love you very much.
Oh, much.